We're live. How's it going, guys? Let me know who's here right now. So just comment your name or just say what up so I know who's watching, because the numbers are a little shifty at the start. But I hope you guys are doing all right. I hope the relaxing of some of the quarantine measures are treating you well. I know that here in the UK, a lot of you guys are going to be watching from the UK, and here we're now at least allowed to go outside where it's sunny for a lot of the time, which is a nice break. And the weather has been beautiful. So I'm going to jump straight into some questions that I've received over email and in the comments. So you guys obviously feel free, as always, just to ask them in this little live chat section that we've got here. And any comments that come, I will do my best to answer those as they come in. But yeah, I want to hear your guys' thoughts. Like, how are you finding this time? Are you finding ways to make it productive? Are you finding things that you're taking up, new hobbies or activities that you're doing in these times? Are you able to get outside and do a bit of exercise? Or if anyone's got a gym routine, then let me know what's going on there and how you're managing that, because I think it's all important at this point. It's not just obviously important to think about dating and women and relationships and things. That's just one side of the coin. Essentially, if you're focusing any of your time on that, you want to also be focusing at least some of your time on the other sides of the very multi-sided coin, which is going to be fitness, any business or hopes or dreams that you have of doing something in the future, focusing on all of that. So I'm going to go straight away and start answering questions. The first one is from Zach, a stateside viewer. Zach says, for years, coaches have advised against dating apps, Tinder or Bumble, and social media, Instagram. Is COVID changing that? And we've just got another comment in from Darth Maul. Stop pushing PUA to ethics, bro. It doesn't work for ethnic men in the West. You mean ethnics? Dude, I don't give a shit about where you're from or what color your skin is. I'm giving advice to men who I think are going to benefit from my stuff. So if you're not interested in it, Darth Maul, then don't watch it, bro. But some people are interested in it. And for their sakes, I'm going to keep saying what I'm saying. I hope that answers your question, Mr. Maul. And now to Zach's question. Do I think the sort of scene is changing and Tinder and Bumble are becoming more popular? Well, I certainly do understand the urge to be on apps like Tinder and Bumble, right? It's very difficult, nigh impossible to go out. It is possible. I actually have a friend who is approaching at the moment. It's not something I want to do right now because I feel like going out in the day to day and talking to women still is kind of pushing something onto them, or at least it. Hold on a second. Fire in the dungeon. Yeah, so I think that it's still a bit risky because you're kind of pushing it on to someone who might be living with elderly relatives or something like that. And from my perspective, at least, that's just not a risk that I want to be putting anybody under. So just from a moral standpoint, for me at the moment, in almost every case I can imagine, it's just not a good idea to actively go against what we're being asked to do unless we have a very good reason to do it. My cousin is meeting lots during the coronavirus at Walmart and grocery stores. Fine, like I get it. I have no judgment against people that are going out. At the moment, I do think there is some value to Tinder and Bumble. Like I do understand why that's a safer way of doing it, right? Everyone is missing communication. It's not just guys, it's also girls as well are missing the opportunity to meet guys and even just getting attention, right? They're not being approached in the day. They're not having that opportunity to get attention from men. So everyone's kind of missing a very humanizing process, which is talking to each other, talking to strangers and just receiving subtle kind of packages of communication, right? Even just eye contact in the street, just sharing a few words at a grocery store. And so I think the apps, I've just started using Tinder actually, just because I'm getting more and more questions about it. And I'm feeling now with the increasing relaxing of the lockdown measures, I think something's happening soon. I think we're going to be back to some sort of normal sooner than we think. I don't know if it's going to stay like that or if it's going to be sort of juggling between closed lockdown and then open to sort of mitigate the process a little bit and level out the old the peaks of infection rates. But yeah, I definitely think it's not a bad time if you are interested in the apps. I don't ever think it's a good time to spend a lot of your time doing it. But, you know, if you've got 10 minutes free in the day, I don't see any harm with it. And I think it's a much safer way to meet someone consensually at the moment, because if you're meeting a girl on Tinder or Bumble, then and she's happy to meet you too, then you know you're not imposing that on anyone. And I think that if you're in a situation where you can get out on a walk or something, at least have that proposition that if you meet up with someone, you could actually maintain 2 meters distance and still get that FaceTime in, go for a walk, enjoy like a stroll, which is essentially a good way to do a date anyway. I like to do that for a date anyway, to go for a walk. If you've got some nice parks or nature around you, I think it's a really good way to get to know someone, because walking side by side, you don't have that constant face-to-face contact. You don't have that constant, I guess, pressure and intensity. So actually, if you ever get a chance to walk in dates as much as possible, I think it's a great way to, I guess, to introduce a kind of physical aspect, right? You know, if you're crossing a road, you can put your hand on a girl's arm or on her shoulder. If you're, you know, having a little bit of banter, maybe you can hold her hand. Stuff like that has a lot less pressure when you're walking around than it does if you're sat opposite or even next to a girl on a date. So I really recommend walking and moving dates anyway, moving from location to location, going through nature with a picnic, something like that. It's a lot more fun. You get to know the person better. So now if you can do that, find people on Tinder who are happy to do it, who aren't putting any of their family at risk, and you know with a good level of knowledge that you're not going to be putting anyone at risk either, then I cannot say that I am for keeping people apart in all circumstances. I just think it's too dehumanizing. I think it's been on too long. Someone's fucked up along the way. It's a difficult situation, but yeah, I think if you can make that happen for yourself, I say go for it. Amir, hey Sam, as I said before, I think you're one of the few human coaches out there because there is an arts teaching, being a school teacher myself. Thanks Amir, I appreciate that, bro. Eric, how much should I wait gaining experience with women to take it really, really seriously with them? How much should I wait gaining experience with women to take it really, really seriously? I don't understand, bro. Maybe you're trying to say, how much should I prioritize gaining experience over becoming serious in a serious relationship with a girl? That's not really, that's not something anybody else can answer but you, right? I mean, my standard modus operandi, like the standard way that I would think about it, is that people are single, essentially courting. It's the process of courting. That's what dating is, until they find a partner with whom they want to spend all their time and build a family with some level of certainty that that's the way they want it to stay. I have a feeling that most men, actually not just a feeling, it's fairly well evidenced in the people that I know and the relationships that I've seen, but I think on the whole, men are actually happier in a committed relationship with a person that they really like and starting a family than they are sort of frivolously hunting down as many women as possible. However, that definitely does not apply to all men. And I know certainly there are some men who are happier seeing many women because they feel claustrophobic or they feel tied down if they're in a relationship. We know from our biological history that we've evolved in different tribal arrangements throughout history, some of which have been monogamous and some of which have been polyamorous and polygamous. And so there is no consensus on what is the most natural or what is the best, but it looks like throughout the vast majority of Homo sapien history that we've been creatures of marriage, monogamous creatures. And I think from my experience, most guys are happy with a really good woman if they can satiate their taste for the new as much as they can, because I don't think cheating is ever a good option unless the partner is explicitly aware of it and you bring it into your relationship. Amir, I go on walks around Ali Pali a lot, but find it difficult on my own. When I'm with a wing, I do so well. Why is this? It's because with a wingman or with a friend, you've got a kind of, it takes the pressure off it a bit, doesn't it? It makes you feel like you're just out with a buddy and you can kind of just have fun with them and support each other with the approaching. When you're out by yourself, there's no obstacle, there's no object to take away that incessant thought, right? When you're with someone, you can share that thought and you can ping off ideas and you can learn and you can grow and you can enjoy conversation. When you're by yourself, you tend to get entangled in thoughts because there's no way of airing them. There's no way of expressing your thoughts because it's only you. So it can be a lot more difficult, but you're going to spend the majority of your life, your walking life by yourself, right? So it's a really, really good skill to be able to do that by yourself, because you can't be constantly relying on a manufactured situation like going out with someone to approach in order to meet people that you're guaranteed to see when you're by yourself. So you got to kind of push through that and just start somewhere. I always say, like, take the first step. So what that means is, like, if you're too nervous to approach and tell a girl that she's beautiful or say something really bold or valuable, just do something, right? If we focus on the big goal, which is, you know, maybe to have a girlfriend, maybe to be dating a few girls a week so that when we travel the world or when we travel to another country, we have the skill set to do it. Whatever your goal is in pursuing this, I would say that that's your best guide, right? You want to look at the big picture, your goal, and then the next step, the immediate next step forward. And the immediate next step forward is whatever it is right now. So right now it's listening to this, right? What's the next step you can do? What's the next step you can do? Maybe plan a date location for the future. Maybe message a girl that you haven't talked to in a while that you really like and figure out a way to win her over, or at least to re-engage in communication. But just always focus on the minute next step and the big picture, and that whole space in between that seems like the most difficult part. That scaling the mountain just happens by itself when you focus on each individual footstep along the way. So that's what I would recommend in dating process, texting, meeting. Eric, I still don't understand, bro. I'm sorry, but if you try again, I'll give it a go. What are the non-dating benefits of approaching during the day? Has it ever earned you a new male friend or a business contact? That's a really good question from Zach. Yes, absolutely. Two of my best girlfriends, let me rephrase that. My two best girlfriends, besides the mother of my child, and my sister, are from Cold Approach. One was in a bar where I was sitting on a windowsill before the night started, no music. She walked past, sat down on my part of the seat. I told her off for sitting on my throne. We had a joke, and that was an evening time. And another one was in the Saatchi Gallery, a girl I met from France, from Lyon, in the Saatchi Gallery, who went on to be my best girlfriend, really. So yeah, I've met amazing people through Cold Approach. In terms of guys, I've met promoters and stuff in Oxford Circus and Carnaby Street. The promoters for a lot of those nights would always see me approaching around there and came and spoke to me, and they've given me clients before, and I've helped them out with the promotion side of things because I know some people in the industry as well. So yeah, virtually every good contact I've ever made in a business capacity, as far as I'm aware, has come either directly or indirectly through Cold Approach. So it's either directly from approaching people in the street and meeting these people in the street, or it's through the business of Cold Approach, right? People that I reach out to do video collaborations or business collaborations with. But virtually my entire professional network has come directly or indirectly as a result of Cold Approach. The other thing to say on that is that it will help you to muster up the other areas of your life. For example, if you're finding it difficult to find routine in the mornings, or with an exercise routine in the gym and things like that, or even with business and just cracking on and getting work done, there is triangularity to wealth, health, and love. That's well documented in biology, but there is a triangularity in that the three pillars of satisfaction and of a really fulfilling life must include levels of satisfaction in your wealth, meaning your money and your potential to make money and yield power, essentially. That's your wealth, your health, meaning your physical and your mental health, and your love, meaning your family, social network, and love opportunities. And when you raise one of them, the others raise with it. There's a triangularity there where the relationship is symbiotic and they all grow from each other. So if you're struggling with your gym routine, approaching will help you get into your gym routine, and vice versa. So it's overcoming a very extreme sensation that you feel, which is the fear of existential threats. Essentially, if I talk to this girl, based on our biology from over 100,000 years ago, if I talk to this woman and she belongs to an alpha male, she is one member of a harem of an alpha male, there's a high likelihood that I'm going to be banished from the tribe, i.e. death, or that he's going to kill me, i.e. death. So that the nerves that you feel are very real, and they relate to a time where that girl was one of 150 people and not 150 million people in the country that you're in, or the continent that you're in. And so it's a very extreme feeling, but we know rationally that the feeling doesn't actually indicate what it once did. And it's just that society and culture evolves so much faster than our evolution, our biology evolves. Royal Banana, how are you feeling about the Sweden trip coming up soon? Good, man. Good. Yeah, really looking forward to Sweden, 24th to 28th of June. Doors are open, 2 spaces sold. I will be doing that with Tusk as well. He's going to be there. So 2 spaces sold. The doors are open. Everything's looking great, and really excited about that. Sweden seems to be going ahead as usual. Bars are open. Pubs are open. I don't know the details of how they've managed that, but they've made it work so far. So yeah, really exciting times. Excited to get out of here. I was in London a few days ago, actually. I saw the old Tusk as well. And London was looking more lively as well. You got people out by the river on a Monday afternoon, loads of people out. So it's exciting to see people starting to think about themselves as living their lives again, rather than living a very pale silhouette of what their life once was. Amir, I'm great in conversation. It's those 10 seconds leading up to approaching her. It messes up my opening line. How do you tell yourself to stay calm? You don't, bro. Amir, you don't have to tell yourself to stay calm. You just know what you need to do, which is take the next step, go and approach her. There are some things that help in the first 10 seconds. One thing that, if I have the mental strength to do it at the time, if I'm really calm, the best way to do it is to just watch her instead of thinking, right? Because you can't simultaneously be paying attention to something that you see, paying attention to it, and paying attention to thought and getting distracted by thought. So instead of trying to get rid of the negative thoughts, you just replace them with the process of watching, right? The process of paying attention. So if you just watch her, right? You were attracted to that girl in a moment. Then you decided that you were going to approach her. Then you started thinking all these thoughts. That was a sequence of events. Instead, you watch her, decide to approach her, continue to watch her until you're in front of her. And then something comes out of your mouth, right? And because you've been watching her and paying attention, it's the important factor is that concentration and that attention on where you're putting it. And if you're putting it on her as you're walking towards her, then when you come to speaking, you're going to be way more calm. You're probably going to comment on what you're seeing, like maybe how she looks. You look cool today. I like your style. I like your outfit. This is black and this is red. You know, just, it doesn't have to be a great line. It's the age-old trope, but it's just so true. It is the way you say it. the intent that you've got in your body, the expression of what your expression at the time carries the words. The words don't carry the expression. So don't worry about what to say. Pay attention to her. Say whatever comes out of your mouth, as long as you're watching her when you're approaching, and as long as you hold eye contact when you're with her, the interaction is likely to go well, and you'll know when it does, because it will just feel relaxed and chilled out. So when do you think it's safe time to start approaching here in the UK? Andy on lock. I don't know, Andy. Hard to say, isn't it, mate? I'm hoping in the next month or two. It's been changing. I'm in Bath at the moment, but I was in London, as I said, a few days ago, and there's people out in the parks at the moment. Groups are gathering, which is maybe a nightmare for health professionals, but it's certainly uplifting to see it from my perspective. So yeah, that's really awesome. I think it's going to be by July, to be honest, mate. I think it's impossible to keep English people inside during summer. I don't think it's going to work. And I don't expect that it's the best way to do it either. I just don't think that keeping everyone inside is the right way to tackle this. I don't know anything really, but I really don't think that we're going to find that was the right answer, to be honest. Yes, Kai-Yi-Fu, I do live in London. Are you from South Korea? Are you from Seoul? I've been approaching around Alexandra Palace, got some weird looks, which sometimes, yeah, man, you definitely don't want to just be going up and approaching everyone, because as I've said earlier, you genuinely might be bringing a death sentence home to an old member of their family, right? It's not, a lot of people say, oh, don't exaggerate, don't bring that like negative mindset. No, it's about looking at both sides. If you ever want to win an argument, you figure out how to win the other person's argument. You win the other side first, and then that's how you strengthen your own argument. So if you're thinking about the morals of approaching, first figure out exactly why it's not okay to approach. And then if your other argument for why it is okay beats that argument, then you know that you've got a clear head and a clear conscience about doing it. AOC, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Have you read it? Yeah, it's a good book. I recommend it. But I read some other books that were similar to it beforehand. And I know that if you're reading similar book, different books on the same topic, the one that you land on first normally unlocks a lot of those doors in your mind, so that the others arrive to open doors. So it's normally the case that if you read one book on spirituality or on business, the first one you read is the most effective, because a lot of them have similar lessons, just told in different ways. And once you've learned the lessons, it's not as powerful a second time. Oh, cool, man. From Hong Kong. Sorry about that. Yeah, I want to go to Hong Kong. I've got a lot of friends from Hong Kong in London. Free Hong Kong, man. Thanks, Sam. You have a gift in teaching. Fancy teaching secondary school kids. Yeah, man, I do want to teach kids, actually. I do want to teach kids, I'd like to teach kids social skills and mindfulness embedded in social skills, like how you can control your mind and calm your mind so that you can be a better communicator, right? I think kids should be learning body language. I think kids should be learning life skills. I think it's so much more important for young boys and girls, young men and women, essentially, to be learning about how to deal with the life that they're about to live. And most of the stuff they're learning is absolutely no bearing whatsoever on any situations that they're going to come to in 5 or 10 years' time. And I think it's really, really weird that we're still teaching them the same stuff that we were 60, 70 years ago, and the world's changed beyond imagination. So I think a mandatory social skills education, how to communicate with someone when they're angry, right? How to calm them down and not stoke the fire. How to get yourself out of an angry state or an upset state, or to control a tantrum. There's so many different things that we know through CBT and through body language that can work. I just think it's crazy that kids aren't learning that. Which apps would you recommend for breathing and mindfulness? Just Sam Harris's Waking Up app is the only app that I'd recommend, because I think it does what every other app does and more, and in a more linear and congruent way. So Waking Up by Sam Harris, it's really good. Back to Zach. Coaches like James and the Silver Fox have been pushing masculinity development as a holistic approach to day game. To what degree is this in line with your philosophy? Another great question. I think it's in line with my philosophy as far as we can define what masculinity is, right? Masculinity has had a very, very tumultuous journey for the last 2,000 years, you know. In 1066, kings were wearing dresses, purple dresses and high-heeled shoes, and they would do that, you know, the girls' Instagram pose where they sort of lift one leg up at the knee to make their body curve in a certain way. That was what kings used to do. They used to have long hair, they used to wear dresses, they used to wear high heels, and they used to dip their hips and lift their leg at the knee to make their posture look better. And women didn't matter what women were. They wore these fluffy, dumpy polka dot dresses and things. And that was masculine, right? And so it's changing. We know it's changing. In the 1970s in America, huge bodybuilders, people with huge muscles were considered very effeminate, and it was much more associated with homosexuality, you know, and sort of that liberal queer movement. And now you see them every day on Rio, just people who are utterly, utterly muscle bound, and the women love it, right? We know that there's a biological degree to which masculinity is understood. And the way that I understand that is, for example, the core traits, like the ability to survive when others don't, the ability to protect the ones that you love, friends, family, loved ones, emotional stability, the ability to control your emotions. And then there are some signs of someone that has those traits, like being attractive to other women is one, and then being able to survive taking risks, you know, taking big risks and surviving them. So we know the core traits. I think beyond that, to think of it as like rugby players are masculine, full stop, or soldiers are masculine, full stop, or it just doesn't quite work like that, because society changes, and so our conceptions and perceptions of masculinity changes with them. So I think the masculinity and femininity often have a lot more in common. They find very different expression, but strength in a man, right? We think of strength, mental strength, courage is a masculine trait, but it's also a feminine trait, right? You look at Beyonce, someone like Beyonce or Michelle Obama, they are feminine, right? They've got like a beautiful womanliness to them. Like a beauty that's not going to deride with age, right? They've got something just wonderfully feminine about them. Yet they have a lot of the traits that we would traditionally associate with masculinity, right? Strength, courage. I don't really know much more than that, but going after what they want, ambition. And I think that there's this conception that a lot of guys that are interested in meeting women, and maybe more in this sort of industry that we find ourselves in, want submissive, weak, you know, sort of pretty little girls. And it's like, I don't think that's actually true. I think most men who are looking for women want women who speak for themselves, who are kind of strong-willed, just not being a prick, right? You just don't want her to misinterpret what you're saying on purpose, and you know, just generally being a dick, right? Like it's the same for men and women. You can be cocky, you can be cheeky, you can be strong-willed, you can be stubborn and still be very attractive in that way. Both men and women can do that, right? It's when you become arrogant like that, or willfully misinterpreting or being nasty to someone, that's not attractive in men or women. So I don't know about the whole masculinity, femininity thing. I do think that it's useful to look at some of the sort of archetypes, like, for example, the warrior mindset. Sometimes you have different mindsets where sometimes you feel more poetic, like you want to, I don't know, maybe you want to write, or you want to process your thoughts, or you want to create something kind of intellectual. I have those times, and then other times I have the sort of warrior mindset, which is don't plan, don't think ahead, just do the job, right? Go and make the money, get the thing done, for lack of a better term. And I think of that as the warrior mindset. And I think we should try and be as flexible as we can with our identities, not try and hang on to one state for too long, but accept the sort of changing tides. Like sometimes you're going to be more headstrong. In the summer months, I generally am more headstrong. I'm much more ambitious, and I go and get things done. And then in the winter months, I tend to hibernate a little more and plan the future and get creative in certain ways. So I think there are different levels, and I think it's just important to focus on how you're feeling at the time, what mindset you're sort of embodying, and then doing whatever's the best work you can do in alignment with how you're feeling, right? Any chance you might come to Budapest anytime soon? Zoltan, how is Budapest, man? What's going on there? Are there people to be approached? Is there fun to be had? Let me know. Tell me about Budapest. I would love to come. Jan Belak, till this day, I have approached 134 women, but I did not get any results greater than small talk. Well, in my country, it is now everything reopened, so I try as hard as I can, but what should I do? Where are you from, man? Are you Belarus? No, you can't, because they've been closed. They've been open the whole time. What should you do? Well, clearly the problem isn't your approach or anything like that. If you're having a lot of small talk, I think one of the biggest, this isn't necessarily a solution, but one of the biggest problems that we have is when we're talking to a girl, we're waiting for signs that she's attracted to us, right? We're stood there and we're looking at her and we know we're attracted to her, but we're waiting for signs that she's also attracted to us. And unless she gets a sign that we are attracted right now, as in an expression, for example, one expression is a flush in the face. If you get flushed, it's your body telling you that you found a potential partner that is attractive. A little squinting of the eyes like that. For her, the pupils getting larger, flicking her hair. But the important thing for her to see is that you're actively attracted to her. Because if you're not attracted, but you've come and spoken to her, then what's that? How does that equation look, right? A guy's come up to me and stopped me in the day, which never happens. And now I'm talking to him and I have no signs that he's attracted to me, right? He may be giving me compliments, but I can see his face and his face isn't showing attraction. And so often we're not attracted in the moment because we're too busy thinking or waiting for her to do something. So allowing yourself to be attracted to the woman as a process, to actually feel attraction in the moment, is very likely to give her the stimulus that she needs to actually express that back to you. It's difficult for her to be attracted in the moment to you if you're not attracted in the moment to her. So that's what you should ask yourself, Jan, is like, don't be having the small talk, like pay attention to her. You've got a beautiful woman in front of you, right? Just appreciate what you've got there, right? And listen to her, listen to what she's saying, because it's so difficult to build attraction without presence of mind, right? If you're not ever feeling something in the interaction, if you're not ever that sort of open space to feel something, it's so difficult to create any feeling. And it's not as simple as just, if I have the right conversation, I'll get the number. No, people read intention in other people. We're intention calculators. We read it in their facial muscles. So you got to just try and sit back, relax, not say anything special, but enjoy her company, man. Look at her, pay attention, listen. And Slovakia, cool. I'm going to do some research, man. If you know any insider knowledge on Slovakia about, you know, what the format is in terms of getting in, is there going to be a quarantine? Are the bars and clubs open? Please let me know. Caleb, hey man, cool. We can't find. Sorry, I spoke to you before on WhatsApp during this lockdown because we can't approach women during an online game like go on webcam sites. If you want to, man, Caleb, you fancy it. I don't. As I said at the start, I don't think there's any problem whatsoever with going on Tinder at the moment, right? If you can find the kind of girls that would be out in the street, but they're not out in the street because of this virus, and instead they're online, right? And they're okay to meet up, then you're not inflicting the approach on them, right? Then there's no chance that if they meet up with you on Tinder that they're living with a vulnerable elderly relative. But if you meet someone in the day right now, there is a chance that you're bringing a death sentence home to them. So again, I'm not saying don't approach in the day now. I'm not going to comment on that. Like, it's down to you. I'm not going to give bad advice or nuanced advice that can be interpreted so easily. But I don't think there's any problem with Tinder. So yeah, I do think it's not a bad idea if you want to meet girls to go on an online dating site and try and meet the women that you would otherwise be meeting in the day. Les Goose, what's up, bro? Kiss right back to you. I'm going to go back to some of Zach's questions. You mentioned that your current romantic relationship don't quite fit with accepted social norms. Because of this, do you ever hold feelings of guilt or shame? How do you reconcile those emotions with your life philosophy? Wow, man, you've mentioned that your current romantic relationships don't quite fit with accepted social norms. Actually, look, I don't think they don't fit with accepted social norms. I don't think society generally has a problem, with me openly and honestly having good relationships with different girls, right, in a non-committed stance. Certainly, none of the people I hang around with have a negative judgment on that, or the people that I would call friends. And so I don't really see much resistance to it, right? I think there would be resistance if, and rightfully so, if it were not honest. So if I was seeing many girls and lying to each one that I wasn't seeing the other, I think as much as anything, that would just be bad for you or bad for me, right? When you are literally living a lie, having to maintain a lie, it is draining of your life energy. I really don't recommend it. So they're not they're not the normal way that things are done, but I do think they fit with accepted norms. I just don't think they're common social norms. Because of this, do you ever hold feelings of guilt or shame? How do you reconcile those emotions with your life philosophy? No, man, I don't feel guilt or shame about those. I do feel guilt or shame if I'm dating a girl and I feel like she is, really getting really falling in love or getting really, really deep into it, and I'm not. But I know when that starts to happen that you have to end it, right? You have to tell her, you have to step up at that point. Otherwise, you are falling under the bracket of lying. Again, lying being a multifaceted thing. One is telling false information. That's the first level of lying. The second level is withholding information that might influence the person to decide to do something different, right? So if I were saying to a girl, look, I don't know if I'm ever going to be with you, but there's a chance, you never know. But in my mind, I didn't expect to ever be with her, right? That would be deception to the extent that I'm allowing her to believe that there's a chance when I really know there's not. So that's the only time that I feel feelings of guilt or shame, is if I feel like I haven't yet ended something that needs to end, or I haven't yet addressed a relationship that needs to be addressed. And how do I reconcile that with my life philosophy? It's just by doing it, man. You just got to step up, right? You got to step up and do whatever it is to reconcile your emotions with your life philosophy. Even just for yourself, even if you're doing it selfishly, just because it's really, really depressing to be living like that. It just drains your energy. So as much as it is for anyone else, as an altruistic act to make someone else feel better. I personally believe a lot of guys need to get the basics of socializing down before they go out and approach women. What's your take? Should they learn to walk before they run? Yeah. I mean, it's great to get social experience however you can. I wouldn't say if you're not a very sociable person that you should not approach women. You should be approaching dudes instead, so that you can build your social skills. I think they're all part of the same system, right? I think it's best not to really, not to force a prioritization upon women are more important than men. No, business contact as male might be more important than 100 women you approach, right? But I think it's important to go out and act on what you want to do and how you feel. Because if you like the look of a girl or a guy, if a guy's really well dressed and he looks like he's, a cool guy or an important guy or a club promoter, and you want to get into the club promoting game, or you want to get into clubs for free, or you want to start a business with a promoter, then I think both of those are as valuable as the other. And I think both will equally help the other, right? So I think socializing with guys meeting guy friends is going to help you meet women to some extent. Meeting women is going to help you meet guys to some extent, and each are obviously going to train you in the act of itself. So meeting women is going to get you better with women. Meeting guys is going to get you better with guys. Don't try and compartmentalize everything. Just go out and talk to who you want to talk to, and try and keep it as simple as possible. Occam's razor says that the simplest without external information, I'm paraphrasing, without external information, the simplest solution is usually the best. Do not overcomplicate stuff without the knowledge that that complication is going to improve the theory and the outcome. Budapest and Slovakia shops and coffee shops fully open, while some girls might wear masks still. Right, cool, man. That sounds great. I'm going to definitely check out Slovakia because I love Slovakian people that I've met so far. Andy on lock. Before lockdown started, I started to get numbers after a year of day game, but found it hard to transition from number to date, flaking or ghosting, any avoidance. Yeah, man. I mean, I experienced that. Like, I mean, look, you're always going to get flakiness and ghosting and stuff like that. But I find that tends to go down a lot, and when you start personalizing the whole experience, right? So one quick thing you can do, Andy, on log, is to start thinking about personal narratives in your conversation, right? So if you're talking to a girl and something particularly stands out, you know, so for one example is the shoes one, right? One time when I met a girl, I looked at her and I looked down at her shoes and they were bright, sparkling purple Doc Martens. And I was like, those are the ugliest shoes I've ever seen. And I love them, right? And so she didn't know how to respond because I said I love them, which is nice. But I'd said that they're the ugliest shoes, which, you know, it was about how you carry that statement. It was about the way that you say it. But she knew that I was taking the piss and, you know, just being a bit cheeky rather than being rude to her because the way that I said it. But then when I started texting her and stuff, I would send her pictures of other people wearing ugly shoes and being like, we've got number 2. She stands at the silver on the podium, but you still beat her with the purple Doc Martens, right? And then so throughout that relationship, we could always come back to the shoes at any time. When I was messaging her, when I was sending pictures over messages of other people's shoes, and she didn't reflect. But if I'd just said like, are you always so nice to guys you meet in the street? She might have read that message and not replied because she's like, well, you know, that it's just not much interesting to say. But if I make it about the shoes, she might feel ha 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 and say ha ha ha, give something back because the message that you've sent has drawn it out of her, right? I don't think we should be expecting women to just sit down and ponder over what they should reply to a dull first message or something like that. It's just not that deep to them, right? It's not, they don't have the same urgency that we have. They don't have the same real desire to see that guy they met in the street because they don't know anything about him. So I would say that you've got to personalize your interactions so that you've actually got something interesting to say. Because if you just had a bland conversation and now you're sending her a bland message, it's not very sexy for her, right? To be involved with. It doesn't feel good. What are your thoughts on Red Pill, and would you recommend Mark Manson and his book Models? What are my thoughts on Red Pill? I think that, dude, I mean, it's such a cesspit, isn't it? Like, I think this the ideas are good, right? Like, I think some of the ideas of the Red Pill community, well, I don't think they're good. They're just fact, right? A lot of the biology is just fact. And I get it. Like, I get why guys want to learn it and want to have that mindset. I think that when it gets to the sort of vitriolic anti-feminist area, I think that it's best avoided, because whenever you find yourself on one side of a divide, whether it's fuck the feminazis and their anti-male rhetoric, or fuck pickup artists and their anti-female hate crimes and street harassment, whenever you get sucked into that world, you are part of the problem, right? You are part of a divide that doesn't need to exist. I had this conversation with a client earlier today. It's literally a feeding mechanism, right? An event happens. A girl interprets something a guy said on the street as insulting, and she's offended, right? Maybe because of some thing that's happened in her past, right? That guy may not have intended it as insulting. She took it that way. She posts it on Twitter. 100 women share in her anger because they see it and it riles them up and they want to get attached to anger. So it gets 100 retweets. The Daily Mail or the Sun finds that tweet. They make a page about it. Now 100,000 people see it. And then 100,000 guys in the men go their own way community rile against it. And now you have a war. Now you have a culture war that was started from one misinterpretation that sucked in all of these people that had absolutely no need to waste their energy and get involved. The issues are never as big as we think they are. The majority of people are normal, cool, interesting people, and we should just remember that, right, and not get sucked into it all. However, I understand, and I do think when something specifically hits you, right, like I can imagine, I'm a father, so I can imagine if you're a father and you know that the woman used you for a baby and now is claiming your money and trying to take full custody, right? Fathers for Justice makes perfect sense, but don't get wrapped up into battles that aren't yours just because you want to side with some, some powerful force for what you believe is good at the time, because it's normally not, and it's best avoided, I would say. But good question. And do I recommend Mark Manson and his book Models? I haven't read Models, man. I've read, was it him? Mark Manson did The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F***, right? I've read half of that book. I like it, man. I think it's good. Yeah, I think he's a good author. So yeah, I haven't read Models though. What can you tell yourself when you back out of an approach? What can you tell yourself when you back out of an approach? Just be like, it's okay, man. Just be like, that's okay. You don't beat yourself up about it. Just be like, that's okay. Wow, I'm really feeling something, huh? If I'm backing out of it, that means the next one's going to be, I've got to do the next one, right? You've just got to be cool to yourself. You just got to be your own friend, because no one else is going to be. If you can't be your own friend, then no one else is going to be your friend, right? If you don't like yourself, if you go out in the streets and meet women and you don't like yourself, what tends to happen is the longer time you spend in a position of not liking yourself, the more power you have to persuade other people not to like you, right? For a time, people can be like, I want to help this person. I can drag them up. I know they're a good person. They just don't like themselves at the time. But the longer you spend in that state of not liking yourself, the harder you're trying to persuade other people not to like you. And some of them are saying, no, I know that you're cool underneath it, right? I know you're a cool person. But you're literally not giving up the battle against yourself. So if you beat yourself up, which we all do from time to time, I'm not saying I'm immune to that, but we've all got to try as much as we can to just be gentle, like be kind to yourself, because it does help. And then there is a moment where you can give yourself a firm kick up the arse, and it's not in a negative way, right? It's like, get a fucking grip, mate. Let's go. Let's get it done. And that's powerful as well. And it's not in a negative way, right? But as soon as you feel passive aggression towards yourself, like, you little bitch, you should have done that approach, you're always going to fail. This is why other people are better than you. Anytime you feel that talk, it is only negative. It is only damaging. So you've just got to just try and recognize it, because it goes if you recognize it. It goes away. The feeling and the strength that has over you goes. What do you think is the purpose of life? Do you ever feel confused about what is going on to happen after death? Do you believe in God? I'll cover this quickly, man. But I don't think that is a purpose of life. Do you ever feel confused about what is going to happen after death? No, I think what happens after death is going to be utterly mysterious I think there is something, but I think it's utterly mysterious to what you are now, right? There's no way that you could possibly conceptualize in your human form whatever consciousness may exist on the other side of death. So for me, the way to look at it is that there is no purpose to life. There doesn't need to be a purpose, right? We think about life as like, there has to be a purpose to life, and we've got to figure out what it is. But purpose isn't one of the ingredients of biology, right? It's not. There doesn't need to be a purpose. It's us that have developed this idea that there has to be one. So without a need for purpose and trying to find some personal meaning in life, I think the best way to do that is to look at your life like, right, well, what do you know is good, right? Well, feeling peaceful and feeling good and feeling confident and feeling happy, those are good, right? And so you know that if they're good for you, they're probably good for other people as well, right? And so you want other people to feel those things as well. Right? It's very difficult to let other people feel those things if you're not feeling those things yourself. So ultimately, I do think it comes back to a sense of like, you're going to have a little patch of the world, your little network, your little community, and it may grow. But all you can do, and all you can hope to do in this life, is to make sure that you are embedded in that community and that you are creating goodness, right? You're creating goodness for yourself, and so you can share that goodness with other people. That just positivity, it's just positive feeling, good emotion, helping where you can, being kind to people. And I think that's the closest we got to purpose, And if everybody does that to their own plot of land, then everyone's lives are going to get successively better for generations and generations. So I think there doesn't need to be a purpose for things to be enjoyable. It's just, you can just think of like, right, well, what's the best I can do right now? And then try and pursue that in whatever way you can. Kaylin. Before this, after I finished work at 2,300 hours, I used to do 2 or 3 sets in the bars. Also used to approach sets on the tram before I went home. During this pandemic, now I still have the skills behind me. Yeah, you still got them, bro. You've still got the skills. They don't go away. It's like riding a bicycle. Hi, Sir Use. And Caleb, yeah, I think people can come out better the other side of this. I think so too. I don't want to be too whimsical about it. I do think it's fucking weird and pretty shit, to be honest, for most people. But you're right. The best way to look at this lockdown is to think, well, it's going to finish. And when it finishes, I'm going to look back and regret not doing a load of stuff, right? There's going to be so much stuff that I think, why didn't I just get that done in that time? Because now I have to do it. And now I've got other things I want to do, and I had nothing to do, and I didn't do it. So put yourself a month or two in the future and think about the things that you're going to regret not having done during this lockdown. Those are the things that you should do. And it's actually easy to go ahead and project into the future and think about that. So enjoy that. Yeah, we're live, man. We're live, Sir Use. Caleb, I think you get out the blue pill matrix by learning game, approaching women, and become a red pill man. Yeah, dude, I don't think these terms are necessary, dude. I don't think you should be defining yourself as a red pill man. I don't think it's necessary. Just like I don't think it's necessary for a woman to label herself as a third wave feminist or a fourth wave feminist, right? I think it's just like cults and religions, and I think there was a time for these little tribes, but I don't think these tribes are helpful now. I think there's more positive tribes that people can turn to, right? And they don't have to feel like there's this scripture behind it, the red pill scripture. Just follow science, man, and find other people that are interested in science. And then you can have all of the red pill ideas, but without any of the dogma and without any of the hatred that they often entail. I'm not saying every red pill person hates other people, but I know that there is a level of dogma attached, and dogma is what you want to avoid at all costs because it makes your identity part of a system, and it takes you out of being an individual with your own will and your own ideas, and it puts you in a mob mentality, which makes you more susceptible to hatred, more susceptible to control by other people, and it's just not healthy. AOC, are you worried about crisis in Brazil? Dude, my family's over in Brazil. My little boy and my baby mama are over in Brazil, and they are the center right now. I'm not worried, man. I'm not worried about it. Right? I think I have moments of worry where it's like I want to be able to be there, just to make sure everything's okay because everyone's fine over here. So I kind of want to be over there to help out and do what I can. But I know I'm doing everything I can at the moment. So no, I'm not worried. I hope Brazil will come out okay though, right? I hope they'll come out with a new president, to be honest. It's not a partisan thing. I just don't think he's the right man to be a president of a country. He's not intelligent enough to do it. Do you think there's a lot of pickup artists hate women because it becomes a numbers game at one point and you just count her as a notch and not a person? Yeah, man, I think at the start of most pickup artist journeys, it comes out of a desire to dominate women, right? When I started doing it, it was because I had a bad breakup and I found out that things had happened in the relationship that I couldn't have imagined happening, right? That I just had no situation to compare it to where I could have expected to find out. It was like completely outside my paradigm that she'd behave, that the girl had done maybe what she'd done. And so and then I just had a really like instant realization in the weeks coming after how women were, right? How the psychology works and how what it is to be attractive to a woman and what it's not, right? And it's an epiphany that a lot of people have. And I think luckily the longer you stay in it, and then if you are someone that is looking for truth, if you're looking for answers and accuracy and science, then I think that people who come in with a hatred of women can come out of it having a deep respect for women, right? So I do think a lot of pickup artists hate women because of experiences they've had in their past. And I think a lot of radical feminists hate men deep down. They won't say it. They hate men because of things that have happened to them in the past, right? We hate entire groups of people for the actions of a few people in that group because we cannot manage the situation in our minds. And so, yeah, I think hate drives a lot of the desire to control and have power over. But I think that it's not all, people come out of that shadow when they learn that the reality of it, and that it's not evil that's possessing, the woman that cheated on you, or this or that. It's just basic psychology, right? And you were fucking up in ways that you didn't understand, and taking responsibility for where you went wrong, understanding what decisions drove her to do what she did, and just looking at it all with a bit of rational perspective is very helpful. Yuri Vlasov, is that right? What a good approach to lay statistics. Tom Torero mentioned that around 1 lay to 60 approach is a good barometer for an advanced guy. I don't know about that, man. I think it honestly depends on a lot of factors. It depends where you're approaching. Like, again, I've had days where I've gone out and done 4 approaches and, got 3 numbers and met up with 1 or 2 of them, right? And I've had other days where I've just gone out and done 25, 30 approaches and got absolutely nothing. And honestly, I don't know why to this day. I don't know. I think partly there is definitely something in your energy that can affect it. Some days you just feel relaxed and it's written all over your face. And some days you've just got some web of anxiety that's stopping you from being pure in your expression, and it just turns women off. I think there's something to that. There's a lot of luck. And if you're going out a lot, you're going to have some really good days and some really bad days. And those days are going to stand out more than the average days. So you're going to remember them. So it's going to seem like there were more of them. 1 lay to 60 approaches for an average guy. I mean, that sounds reasonable, right? That sounds reasonable. I don't know. I don't keep account of that. Again, it came to this last time, and I got asked a lot about, number counts, body counts. And look, my advice to guys, honestly, is to try not to keep track of it, right? It's very natural for maybe the first, 20 to 50 women that you meet, a lot of guys would be in a lifelong relationship by the time they've met that many. But, it's easy to keep count of stuff like this at the start. But I think as soon as it becomes hard to keep count of the amount of approaches you've done, or dates or lays or anything like that, I think you should let it go. Because I don't think you want to be able to quantify everything. I think it helps to be able to go out free and just have no fucking idea about what's going to happen or what's a good statistic, and just throw yourself into the lion's den and see what comes out the other side. I don't think it's worth grappling too much with that. However, to answer the question, that sounds about right. I would expect it to be a little bit higher for someone that is, making women laugh in an interaction. If you're going up to women and they're laughing during the interaction, then I think 1 to 60 is a little low, right? I would think it would be more like 1 to 20, 1 to 30. What do you think of Rushdie converting to Christianity and swaying towards American white nationalism? Is nationalism further down the pipeline of getting woke on feminism and understanding game? Good question, man. I mean, yeah, it's a good question. What do I think of Rushdie converting to Christianity? I don't know much about Rushdie, man, but I think anyone that converts to Christianity, or anyone that converts to a religion, is looking for something bigger, right? They're looking for something to worship. They're looking for something bigger than them to kneel before, essentially. And I personally think there's better things now. We've got better ideas to worship than old religions, right? You can, but we know that it's not. We know that a lot of the stuff that is written in the scripture is completely impossible and didn't happen. And there are better ideas emerging that we can believe in, right? We can believe in virtually anything now. We can believe in science, right? You can just study science and find a group of people that also study science, or study consciousness and how to manage consciousness, how to pay clear attention and worship that, right? There's so much stuff. There's so many good ideas now. I don't know why you'd move backwards to that rather than forwards, but I hope he's all right. Is nationalism further down the pipeline of getting woke on feminism and understanding game? By the way, that's nothing against people who have religion. I really, really don't judge. And a lot of my friends are Christians. And I've got Muslim friends as well. And actually some Buddhist friends as well. I just think that and I understand it because there's a community to it, and we do miss community with a lot of things today. But I just think converting to Christianity is strange because it feels like a massive step backwards rather than a step forwards. Is nationalism further down the pipeline of getting woke on feminism and understanding game? No, man, it's not. It's not. But I can see how the gateway drug to becoming and a nationalist is a bit of an odd word as well, because nationalism can actually be a good thing, right? Belief in your country and faith in your country and a love of the place that gave you the services and the care that you needed to survive is great. But nationalism with a hatred of the other, or a sense of xenophobia, is negative. And is it further down the pipeline of getting woke? I think it could be, man. Yeah, I think it could be. But I think anyone that gives into dogma, anyone that reads the scripture online, whether it's the men going their own way, feminism, Christianity, jihad, Muslim, anytime you're getting sucked into dogma, right? Dogma, things that aren't based on evidence, but they're just based on a belief. It's because you're looking to fill a hole. And I just think we should be careful about filling that hole with the right things, right? So, yeah, that's how I see it. If a guy has acne and redness of his skin, can he get girls? Also, can Indians get women? Yeah, of course they can, man. If you've got acne and redness on your skin, do whatever you can to fix the acne, right? For me, I was on acne medication for 1.5 years. To dry, I found out that I had oily skin. So first they gave me moisturizers, which made my acne way worse. It made me get those spots that sort of go deep under the skin, like little temples, and you can never get rid of them. Then they gave me stuff that dried out my skin, which made me depressed, gave me depressive episodes. And all I needed to do was wash my face with soap and wait for my hormones to get slightly better. But face soap just hand soap was the best thing for my skin, right? So just try some other stuff. But it don't look, yeah, dude, acne's tough, but just, figure out a remedy for it however you can, and then wait for it to subside. And yes, Indians can get women. Yes. Are you still coaching online? Yes. Caleb, what is MGTOW about? Dude, just look it up online. I don't want to go there, man. What can a 21-year-old guy do when he feels suicidal because he doesn't have any friends, even though deep down he knows he's a good person? Yeah. Find friends, man. You've got to find some friends. But if you deep down know you're a good person, then you've got to remember that, because as I said, it's very difficult for people to like you if you don't like yourself. If you're feeling suicidal, it's often like a spiral, right? Because I've never been properly suicidal, but I've been very depressed before. I didn't want to leave my house or my bed. And I know that you just get caught in it. You get caught in this perspective of the world where everything seems the same. So I know, for example, that if I went outside for a run, I would feel better. But my thoughts are, what's the point in feeling better if I feel this, if it's all for nothing, right? And that's just a slippery slope. And you've just got to understand that life is not just the way it is. It is the way it is with a filter on, right? So if you're depressed, you have a depressed filter on life, and you can take that filter off. And exercise helps, but it's not the be all and end all, right? People still go down even when they're exercising. People still take their own lives. I think you got to find community, man. You got to find the people that love you and spend as much time around them as possible, and try and find community, non-dogmatic community, wherever you can. But drop me an email if you really want some help on that, and I'll see what I can do. What do you think about social class and dating? I'm from a council estate in Manchester and often felt like I was inferior to the posh women in Sloane Square in Kensington I was chatting to. Yeah, understandable, man. I was for a long time sort of scared of posh English girls, because I went to school with them. So I had quite I went to boarding school, so I had quite a not posh upbringing, because my dad's from a council estate, and my mum was from a very wealthy family, so I had a weird mix of the two. I had both sides, but I felt like the girls that I was at school with were just way more posh like that. And so that, for years after I finished school, I had the same feeling when I met them, like a weird sort of block in my mind that they're just out of my league because they talk differently, or because they've been riding horses for longer, or whatever. Just doesn't mean anything, man. You've got to remember that everyone's got their own insecurities. These girls have got their own interests. They've got their own insecurities in public, and they might like you just like you like them, right? A lot of that is the best mindset for going into the dating game, is to just think that you don't really need, the law of averages predicts that you're going to be someone's type, right? People do have a very large variety of types. And if you talk to enough women, some of them you just click with, right? Some women, for no apparent reason, maybe it's just common interests or like some weird commonality, genetic commonality that some people you just click with and some people you don't. So get out talking and you are going to meet women that are just like you. And commonality is a massive, massive predictor of relationship success. People say that opposites attract, and no, they don't. Similarities attract. Common interests attract. How do you let go of feeling resentment towards women? That happens in dating, just dealing with all the flakes, the cheating, the dishonesty, the hypergamy. Some days it really weighs on me. Yeah, man, I know the feeling again, but the way you let go of it is to understand that it's all essentially predetermined, right? It's all how we're hardwired, right? Men and women are mostly similar. Like, you know, I've got girlfriends where I just sit down and I talk to them like they're dudes, and in almost every way we're similar. There'll be some differences, right? There's some level of emotionality or motherliness that they have that I don't have, and there's some level of like there's some qualities that I have that they don't have, right? Maybe it would be me that goes out with a stick or a knife if I hear, you know, someone outside the house trying to get in, right? But there's a lot of similarities, and we're hardwired to fuck up, and they're hardwired to fuck up, and it's best to not blame people for things that they can't necessarily control, and it's best not to hang on to anger and resentment, but just to accept things the way they are, and continue to live your life free from resentment, and then that gives you power, man. So maybe it's not how do you let go of it? You just think, well, if I hang on to it, then I'm powerless. And if I let go, then I've got power. So let the fuck go is, I guess, the answer to that. I'm an atheist that have my own beliefs. Cool, Caleb. Also, is a long no-fap journey good for you? Not sure, man. Your thoughts on no-fap and porn? Right, since it's been asked twice. I don't know, man. I mean, I think probably good to test yourself. If you're doing it as a test for yourself, it's fine. I don't think it's, I don't think masturbation's bad for you. I don't think even porn is that bad for you, but I think it's probably better for you to use your imagination, right? You've probably got some experiences that you can bring to mind. And if you've got an opportunity to use your imagination and be creative, I'm pretty sure that's going to be helpful to you in the future. Whereas if you stare at a screen and allow the screen to do all the imaginative work for you, it's likely to put you in a worse place after the fact, right? You're likely to come out of that and go on your phone or watch TV or something. Whereas maybe if you don't wank or if you don't use porn, you'll probably be going to be able to maintain a better mindset and mind state afterwards to be able to do productive stuff. Cool, Caleb. Just drop me a line. Well, what are your thoughts on trauma healing, inner child healing, tapping, EFT, all woo-woo, or they work? I don't know, man. Again, it's not really my area. And Anas, is it Anas? Anas? I know that CBT works. I've practiced some CBT techniques in my coaching as well. I know the inner child thing works from first-hand experience. I've done some videos on that. And I think that rapid eye movement therapy works. I don't really know about the other stuff. Anglus Patria, but does the rejection of Christianity by Western nations like Britain, America, and France correlate with those countries declining? No idea, man. I don't think so. Right? Belief alone will decline in what way as well? That's that economic decline or cultural decline. I don't know. What are the books that change your life in both pickup and business? In the social realm, the books that changed my life. Well, the 4-Hour Workweek by Ferris. Again, I said earlier that the first book you read is normally the most effective. And the 4-Hour Workweek was the first business book I read, and it was amazing. So that was great. And that changed my life. That's why I went to Brazil. That's why I started traveling. So that one changed my life. There wasn't really any pickup books, I think, that changed. I think The Game was just so exciting, but I think that's the way that Neil Strauss is just an unbelievably good salesman. He can sell anything, right? He makes it seem like it's literally a superpower. And so I think that book gets you excited. It gives you the motivation. And then I don't know, man. I read a lot of evolutionary biology books, which really opened my eyes. The Red Queen was really good, but hard to read. And then book called Pimp is really good by Robert Beck. Again, it's not about pickup, but it just gives you some insight through the stories that he tells. And autobiography of Casanova that I mentioned in the last video. You can find it there. But the autobiography of Casanova is amazing as well. Right, last couple of questions. We're on 1 hour and 10. Is the lifestyle of game sustainable? Is the fact that men have to figure all of this out some sort of science indicative of a very sick society? Suicide rates, birth rates, obesity rates. Are we sick? No, man. We're no more sick than any other animal. Other animals, we've looked at some of the other ape species, and they have very similar reactions. Actually, baboons in captivity, when they have a very strict hierarchy in baboons, and when they're put in captivity, like in a zoo or something, they behave exactly like depressed humans. They give all of the same symptoms, and the ones at the bottom of the litter act just like deeply depressed individuals. And so I think we are sick to the extent that we are still, and I think we will become healthier as we become mobile, right? We were literally born to be moving. Our biology, and it's not better to be moving per se, but our biology is telling us that we will give you happiness hormones if you're running around, if you're active, if you're out and about, if you're in the world, if you're interacting with nature and trees, we will give you happy hormones. If you're not doing that, we won't. So we're sick to the extent that we're still in a large case. And I hope that we don't get more and more still. But no, we're not sick. And it's a bad idea to think of it like that. Suicide rates are the lowest they've ever been, bro. Right? So we're getting fed all of these stories about, and I've lost 2 friends to suicide this year. One, my best friend, and one, an old client and a good friend. And so I'm acquainted with suicide. I'm not diminishing it. But suicide rates are dropping year on year. Virtually everything, definitely decade on decade, right? The general way it's going is that suicide rates are declining. Global prosperity is exponentially rising. Prosperity across the West is rising per person. Society is getting better and better and better by almost every measurable standard. There's a book called Enlightenment Now by Steven Pinker, who's a world-renowned he's neuroscientist, linguist, economist. He's a really good book, but it basically shows you how everything is basically getting better. Right, final one. I'm going to pick one of these. Where do you buy your jeans, Zara? Zara normally. Or I don't really buy jeans, I buy chinos. Is the West sick? Is it only us that have these problems? It's not only us that have these problems, bro. Japan, South Korea, China have horrible, horrible rates of suicide, loneliness, and people dating, their machines. Lithuania has very high rates of suicide in Eastern Europe. It's not, you're being fed a bad narrative if it's just that we're sick, man. If we're sick, we've always been sick. If we're healthy, we've always been healthy. Things aren't as the only thing that stands out right now is coronavirus and the speed at which our technology is developing. What happens after you pull a girl from night game and she files a rape complaint? Dude, I can't go there right now, man. I can't go there right now. I would need about an hour to talk about that. I don't know, Caleb. Yeah, Rory. Yeah, crime rates are better as well. Guys, I appreciate you watching, as always. If you have anything really specific you want to ask or any more questions for, what's the date today? Friday. So we'll do another one on at least by Wednesday, but I'll keep you updated on that. Feel free to ask me any questions in the comments on the post I did, or send me an email. Big yourselves up. Big love to all of you, and stay safe and keep it up. Talk soon.